So, you're new to the hobby of role playing, you really want to know how, and you don't want something super complex. So, we're here to help. Jay here with Nerd Rage Against the Machine, and today we're going to be talking about RPGs that are good intros into the field, especially for younger players, somebody who's new to the idea even of role playing. So I wanted to kind of get this list together. I'd actually been asked this on social media. I was talking with people, and they were, my kid's 12. He would love to get into this hobby. Where would you start? So this is kind of my idea of where I would start, where the games I would give my own kid if she was wanting to get into the hobby per se with her friends. Now, one thing I have done is there are some rules here. These are all games that would also be playable by advanced players. So this is not a list of kid-friendly games. So games such as Little Wizards, Hero Kids, No Thank You Evil, and Tales of Equestria, My Little Pony are not on this list. Now, they are fine games, don't get me wrong. However, they definitely are meant for that younger audience. And if you're starting your kids at 6 and willing to work with them through that, great, you have those options. But this is also, assuming somebody who's maybe late double digit, early double digits, teens, tween level players who, again, they're kind of looking to be as mature as the 20, 30, 40, 50-year-old players in the game as well. Judge them not by their age kind of thing. So these are all games that, whether you're 12 or 22, you're going to feel no shame walking around with these at a convention, or no stigma. Another game I've probably left off this list, which seems almost like a no-brainer, is Dungeons and Dragons. And I know a lot of people say, well, 5th Ed is so much easier than anything else. It is. It is easier than 3rd Ed and 4th Ed and even, 2nd and 1st Ed, obviously. However, there are two reasons it got left off this list. Number one, they do actually make a kid-friendly version of the game now, which, again, kind of pulls back to that stigma of, it's the junior D&D set. But more than that, the real reason is, whilst, yes, the game is easier and there are plenty of people to teach it, the other side of it is that Wizards' model has always been to sell when it comes to supplements. So that same kid who walks into the convention with his player's handbook is going to get, might get met with the whole, well, if you don't have Xanathar's Guide to Everything and 16 other supplements, then you're not a real D&D player. So these are games that don't have that stigma either. Or, the kid walks in and he's got his 2nd level ranger and the other players are all, Giztari, Mind Flayer, or Mind Knights or whatever, again, pick obscure ass race and class from supplements that were mentioned before examples. Those are the things that always make D&D kind of, if you're not right there when it starts, kind of problematic. And since we are, at a point where a 6th edition is being teased, there's enough material out there that I could understand somebody being, for want of a better term, lost in a sea of choices. So D&D is not on this list. These are 5 games that I would recommend that are not D&D, not ultra kiddie games, but definitely good choices for a new player, even a younger player. They are simple games, or simple enough, easy games, but they also provide a lot of meat and enjoyment. So we'll start with number 5, Traveler. Specifically Mongoose Traveler. Now, Mark Miller does also have a Traveler book out there, Far-Fetched Future Enterprises. It's also known as T5, which you'll see in a big slipcase. I would recommend against that one because it does bog the game down a lot. It's a good game. I have nothing against Mark Miller's design on it, but it is, the very advanced version, whereas Mongoose's version of Traveler is very simple. It's a very simple system. It's 2d6. It's mostly 6-sided dice for everything you're doing. Character creation is very simple and very intuitive, I feel. The life path system will also get your players used to the idea of playing the role. You know, this is who I am. Not just, you're a fighter, but no, I spent, a couple years in the Marines. I have an accident which, caused me some damage. Now I have a cybernetic leg because of it. Those kind of little details that make getting into the game pretty easy and pretty fun. So again, that would be one I would definitely recommend, especially if you're into the sci-fi side of things. Number 4 on the list is Castles and Crusades. This is available in this little box set or in hardcover books. Castles and Crusades is unique in this list because it is the closest thing to Dungeons and Dragons. I've also heard it referred to as the Rosetta Stone of OGL or open license games. It does use a lot of the same mechanics as D&D. It is basically, the easiest way to describe it if you're familiar with D&D is it's kind of the easiest parts of BECME and the cleanness of 3rd edition. It's very simple. There aren't a lot of classes to really memorize. And again, the material is, you can get by with the player's guide and the Monsters and Treasure book. You might additionally want the Castle Keeper's Guide, but as someone who's run it a few times, I've never needed the Castle Keeper's Guide personally, but that's me. The little white box edition is also cool because of the fact that it gives you literally everything you need, including dice, character sheets, and each book is these little digests that give you everything you need to play. It also only goes to about level 10 here and only has about 4 classes. So it's a good, here's a pastiche of what Dungeons and Dragons would be like, and also a good primer into D&D. Once you feel familiar and comfortable with castles, D&D is going to be a little easier to get into because you're going to know things like, someone saying, I have a strength of 17, that means something to the Castles and Crusade player just like it does to the Dungeons and Dragons player. There are no feats and no skills in castles, which makes it a little easier to get into. So there would still be a learning curve, but definitely nowhere near as steep. If you've played castles, D&D should really be a snap at that point. So we're going to go with number 3 here now, and that is Big Eyes, Small Mouth, or Besom. Big Eyes, Small Mouth is the anime role-playing game. It was originally by Guardians of Order. Mark C. McKinnon designed it. It is uses a tri-stat system. There's only 3 stats, body, mind, and soul. The biggest loophole or the biggest downfall with this game of the 5 is that it is more of a sandbox RPG. It is more create your own RPG or create your own world for it. There is a generic anime world, but anime is really more of a medium than a specific genre, whereas Dungeons and Dragons, as an example, you get that fantasy milieu without too much trouble. Same with Traveller, really. If you've seen Star Trek, you've seen Star Wars, you've seen Firefly, Traveller doesn't make, doesn't go way out there. With anime, you've got everything from, Hamtaro to Demon Souls. There is that, Ranma 1/2 to Pokemon to Robotech to Gundam. There's a lot of play there. And the game does a good job of emulating it all, but it definitely could be a little unwieldy in that respect. Otherwise, the mechanics are very simple. It is a 2d6 system. You only have 3 stats to worry about, and a lot of it is based on those modifying things that you would add to the character, the feats, the powers. And it is a fun game, and I think if you're a huge anime fan, sticking with something like, say, I'm a huge One Piece fan or I'm a huge Naruto fan, this would be an easy way to kind of, it's, we're either going to play Naruto straight out, or this is Naruto with the serial numbers filed off, which is not uncommon in RPGs. But there's also an easier version of this game called the Naked Edition, which is a slimmed down version of the full volume. So it's another way that you can kind of get players in without spending a lot of money and without having a lot of material that you have to go through. Number 2 on the list is Masks: A New Generation. I love this game. This is a superhero RPG. So again, if you've got players who are more interested in fighting supervillains than they are in traveling in spaceships or fighting dragons and delving through dungeons, this is a really good choice. Now, the one thing about it is a lot of superhero games are overtly complex. I pretty much was weaned on Champions. And while I have nothing bad to say about Champions or the hero system, I won't be the first to lie and say that it's an easy game. It is very complex. There's a lot of point buy, a lot of, almost minor accounting. Now, again, yes, the math is all addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, but there's also a lot of choices and a lot of material to go through. And with Masks, it's almost Champions as polar opposite. This is a game about the story, the heroes. You're building a character, and the power set really comes secondary. It uses the Powered by the Apocalypse engine. It is well written and well designed. The character sheet is literally like, instead of having a traditional character sheet, you have what's called a playbook, which is a custom character sheet for your character. Like, this is my character. It has all my stuff and all the weird rules, because that's one of the ways that they handle things, is that there are rules specific to each character type. And these are archetypes. They're like the Doomed, which is, think like Raven from Teen Titans, or even to a lesser extent Spawn, or the Bull, which is the big guy, gruff, a lot of heart. And they do a lot of good explanation in this book, I think. That's the other reason I would recommend it. It is a great explanation, a very loose and easy system, and one that I think really holds its own in the superhero genre without becoming, how many points did you spend on flight? How many points did you spend on this, that, or the other? And then number one I'm going to recommend is Forgotten Lands, or Forbidden Lands. Forbidden Lands is by Free League Publishing. They do an amazing job. This is their fantasy RPG. Their main fantasy RPG. They also do Symbaroum, which is very stylized. But this one here uses their home engine, or what they call the Year Zero engine. The Year Zero engine is very simple. It's 4 stats, and then 3 to 4 skills for each stat. And it's basically rolling pools of dice, not too dissimilar from Shadowrun, with needing 6s or better. The presentation of these books is gorgeous, and again, I can't imagine an old school gamer feeling any kind of stigma carrying these bad boys around. There is a decent amount of material, and the game world itself is pretty much all based on a simple map that you would use to start them out. Like, here's where you start, and then from there you get to explore. In fact, it even comes with stickers to mark the map with certain features, so that as you go on, you're like, this is where this big battle happened. This is where this is where your character died. But the map itself is also very basic, very easy. And again, this is a game of exploration and dungeon crawling, similar to Dungeons & Dragons in feel, but I think done way better. It's one I would definitely recommend. And like I said, the system itself is very simple. There's no massive complexity, and the material is good. It gives you a lot to go on. Great for a young player, but also honestly something that someone my age would definitely dig as well. So that there is my list of 5 games I would recommend for new role players. And I'm sure that plenty of people in my comments section have their own pet projects or pet beliefs on what would be a great game. So I would love to hear from you too. Let's put it in the comments below and talk about that. And in the meantime, I bid you adieu and happy gaming.